Hello property people, thanks for looking at this video. If you're new, my name is Mark Goller. I'm an estate agent based in the Highlands of Scotland, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Just had two conversations today with potential sellers about fees, and I wanted to do a wee bit about fees and where they are in the big scheme of things. I've just googled, and I knew this anyway from previous research I've seen, but 67% of sellers choose an agent on trust, and 11% choose an agent on low fees. Yet, every seller needs to ask the question of the estate agent, will you reduce your fees? They should do that even if they don't want to. They should do it if they think that's a bit rude. And I'll tell you the reason why you should ask that particular question of an estate agent. So, my question would then be to a seller that says, will you reduce your fees? Two things you can ask there. You can say, well, why do you think I should reduce my fees? That's maybe a bit passive aggressive. My answer is generally no. And the reason I say no is that I value what I do. I've got 4,000 sales behind me, 37 years of property experience, and I value what I do. So if we get a compromise on fees, my question as a seller or to a seller would be, if the agent is willing to reduce their fees, what else are they willing not to do properly? Are they then not willing to negotiate? Don't they have the bottle to negotiate a deal? I've just negotiated a deal for a seller. We're asking for a £30,000 increase. We're not saying no, we're not accepting the offer, but how many people have got the skill to negotiate that? So if an estate agent is willing to reduce their fee, are they going to be as hard-nosed coming to negotiate? And also you have to ask the question, why on earth would an estate agent actually reduce their fee? The main reason I see it is that they don't have the bottle to stand up to the seller and say no. The answer is no. Unless you want me to compromise some of my service, which I'm not willing to do, so the answer is still no. And also, if they're desperate for business, I've seen an awful lot of estate agents go in on fee. Back to the research that I saw probably 20 years ago when Rightmove started to be a thing. And I always remember that statistic, 67% of people buy based on trust, and 11%, I think it is at the maximum, make a decision purely on fee. And when I'm out seeing a client, there's always somebody with a lower fee. There's always somebody with a higher fee. And I have started using the phrase, and it's a true phrase, I'd rather go and walk my dog than sell this house cheaper than it really is worth. And if you do compromise on fee, would I be as motivated to keep trying my best to sell if I think I've been disadvantaged on fee income? And equally, we all need to make a living. We're not doing this as a charity. And the common thought process of estate agent is they're pretty low in the low life scheme of things, but I've still got a family to feed. I've still got food on the table. I've still got a life to lead. So fees, yeah. So from a seller point of view, if somebody compromises on fees, you need to ask yourself the question, what else would they compromise on? We've got a few packages that we offer. We've got 4, I think, in total, one being no sale, no fee, which is still by large the largest, the most, in the UK, the most accepted way to sell a property is no sale, no fee. And yeah, we can do that, of course we can. The reason I joined Yopa 5 years ago and bought the franchise is that there's another way to do it, and that's a fair fixed fee, which approximately, I think the stats tell us, we save around about £2,700 per seller. And the main reason for that is we don't have an office to upkeep. Our offices are our laptops and our cars. And I always ask the question, when was the last time you actually went to an estate agent's office? You just don't. You go on your phone to see what's available. So yeah, fees. Don't please ask the question of any estate agent, will you reduce your fees? And if they say yes, of course, I would suggest you don't use them for the reasons I've given. Are they willing then to compromise anything else that they're willing to that you're asking them to do? Trust is a big thing. There's a certain garage I use, and I won't use any other garage for all my cars, my wife's cars, and my daughter's cars, is because I trust them. And trust takes a while to build up. Where we score in the estate agency is that if you've already, like myself, been well established in the area, probably 60% of the time I go and see a client, they know somebody I've sold for. And I'm happy for them to go and talk to that particular person and say, can you tell me how Mark and Yopa got on? Are they worth going for? And an awful lot of my business is referred because, although I'm by far from perfect, I do try my very, very best for my clients. You'll be surprised to hear I very, very rarely concede fees. And I would seriously rather go and walk my dog. I'll give you an example. I won't give away names, but there was a property in a market town not far from here. And they were from the south, different perhaps selling practices down there, southern Scotland. And they invited me up to see the property, and I went, yeah, no problem, I would be happy to represent you. However, I'm only going to be charging the ultimate fee, the top fee. It was a top property. It was a cracking property, amazing view. It was a top property. And about a week later, they went and instructed me online, and they came in at the absolute bottom core package, as we call it, the DIY package. And of course, I'm not willing to do that because the bits of the marketing that you need, not least of which is a video on YouTube these days, that we have hundreds of thousands of people a day now look at our stuff online. So I cancelled them and I said, sorry, I'm not willing to sell your property for this core package, the bottom line fee, because that's a DIY package and it's just not something I want to be part of. In brackets, the odd time I have done the DIY package, the core package, if you like, there'll just be nothing but complaints about the photographs, the lack of understanding from estate agents, the lack of web coverage, no Facebook stuff and no YouTube stuff. So you're actually asking for trouble before you even start. So anyway, I cancelled them. They hit the roof. Didn't understand how I would be allowed to cancel a client. That's the beauty of being a self-employed estate agent, and we can, to a degree, pick the clients we work with. So I wasn't willing to do it. There was too many compromises would have to be made. I just wasn't willing to do it. Equally, I'd rather go walk my dog than earn peanuts. That's the stage I'm at in my career. So anyway, they went to another estate agent. Presumably got a DIY package there. I think then they went to one of these online load up your own photograph sites and got nowhere there. And about 3 months later, they phoned me up. And of course, I saw the name on my phone. I was expecting a bit of grief, and I didn't. Got invited back up, and they agreed my fee terms. And 7 weeks later, we got a very good offer. And 5 weeks after that, a lovely young couple moving up from the Central Belt bought the property. And that is, I suppose, me sticking to my guns, but also proving my point that I seriously would rather go and walk my dog than offer a compromised service to a client just to save them 500 quid on fees or whatever it might be. So anyway, that's my little rant, because I think that's what this has been, a rant on fees and why you should always ask an estate agent to reduce their fees. And if they say yes, choose an estate agent that won't reduce their fees. Hope you found that interesting. I'll think of another rant soon. Bye for now.